Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to do my review of WCW's Halloween Havoc 1994. Starting off the evening, we're going to go to our first match of the night. It is for the WCW Television Championship. It is Johnny B. Bad versus the Honky Tonk Man. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Johnny B. Bad and the Honky Tonk Man, with Johnny B. Bad keeping the pace of the match. But this match ultimately ends in a time limit draw. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WCW Tag Team Championships. It is Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma versus Marcus Bagwell and the Patriot. This was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with the Bagwell and the Patriot keeping the pace of the match. Roma then hits an elbow drop. Orndorff then goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match, and at that time, new WCW Tag Team Champions, are Paul Roma and Paul Orndorff. Hats off to Paul Roma and Paul Orndorff for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Kevin Sullivan versus Dave Sullivan. I thought this was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between Kevin and Dave, with Kevin keeping the pace of the match. But this match ultimately ends in a count out, and your winner of the match is Dave Sullivan. Hats off to Dave Sullivan for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Arn Anderson versus the Natural Dustin Rhodes. I thought this was a good matchup as well. Back and forth matchup between Arn and Dustin, with Dustin keeping the pace of the match. Dustin then sends Arn into the ropes. Dustin then ultimately hits a roll-up on Arn Anderson, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is the Natural Dustin Rhodes. Hats off to the Natural Dustin Rhodes for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. It is Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Stunning Steve Austin. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Duggan and Austin, with Austin keeping the pace of the match. Austin then hits a low blow on Jim Duggan. Duggan then goes for a 3-point stance, but Austin throws Duggan over the ropes. And your winner of the match by disqualification is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Hats off to Hacksaw Jim Duggan for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the Guardian Angel versus Vader. I thought this was a good matchup. Guardian Angel quickly attacks Harley Race. Back and forth matchup, though, between Vader and the Guardian Angel, with Vader unloading devastating strikes on the Guardian. Vader then goes for a top rope maneuver, but Guardian counters it with a power slam. The Guardian then hits a suplex on Harley into the ring. Vader then hits a splash on the Guardian, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Vader. Hats off to Vader for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is a tag team matchup. It is the Nasty Boys versus Terry Funk and Bunkhouse Buck. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between the Nasty Boys and Funk and Bunkhouse Buck, with the Nasty Boys keeping the pace of the match. Funk then attacks Bunkhouse. Ming then goes to hit Brian Knobbs, but Ming missed and hit Terry Funk instead. Jerry Sags then hits a pile driver on Terry Funk that looked absolutely brutal. Pins for the 3, and your winners of the match are the Nasty Boys. Hats off to the Nasty Boys for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of Halloween Havoc 1994. It is Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship in a steel cage match with special referee Mr. T. Number one, I thought this was a great match. Back and forth matchup between Flair and Hogan, with Hogan unloading devastating strikes on Flair. Hogan then is keeping the pace of the match, but Flair lands chops on Hogan. Hogan then sends Flair into the cage face first. Flair is then going after the legs of Hogan. Flair then sends Hogan into the cage as well. Hogan then sends Flair back into the cage. Flair then hits a knee drop on Hogan's leg. Flair then is trying to injure Hogan's leg in the middle of the ring. Flair then applies his signature figure 4, but Hogan breaks the hold. Hogan then goes to hit Flair, missed, and hit Mr. T. Sherry's ringside. She's ended up climbing the cage. Sting is here as well. He's trying to stop Sherry from climbing the cage. A masked man is here. He ends up hitting Sting. Sherry then is in the cage. She ends up cuffing Mr. T to the ropes. Hogan then hits a lariat on Flair and Sherry in the middle of the ring. Hogan then lands a big boot on Sherry. Hogan then lands another big boot on Flair, and then Hogan ultimately hits a leg drop on the Nature Boy Ric Flair, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Hulk Hogan. A couple of things I'm going to say about Halloween Havoc 94 before I get out of here, man. This was a solid event, and honestly, I'm a big fan of the Halloween Havocs for WCW. I thought they were great pay-per-views, and they put on really good shows for Halloween Havoc. With that being said, though, some of the matches on this card I could have done without. Kevin Sullivan versus Dave Sullivan. I understand, yes, there are mid-card matches. This match was awful. I could have done without this match, and honestly, Johnny B. Bad versus Honky Tonk Man, I thought it was trash. I thought it was absolutely trash. I felt like Johnny B. Bad was pretty much carrying that match throughout the entire time of that matchup. It was not needed, nor was Kevin Sullivan versus Dave Sullivan. That match was not needed as well. Jim Duggan versus Steve Austin. You know, big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And a big fan of Jim Duggan. But at the same time, too, I feel like they brought Jim Duggan in and had really no direction for him in WCW. Yes, they put him in a storyline with Stunning Steve Austin for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship. But after that, there was nothing else for Jim Duggan to do. Literally nothing. And, you know, the way they had Jim Duggan going up against Austin, it was pretty much Duggan trying to have a squash match against Austin the entire time. Guardian Angel versus Vader. Big fan of Vader. I think Vader was absolutely awesome. Severely underrated. Not a big fan of the Guardian Angel, though, man. I don't know what they were trying to do with the Big Boss Man with WCW and the direction they were trying to go. But it was just lackadaisical booking, man. And honestly, at the end of the day, and I stated this the last time, I felt like the reason why they booked the Guardian Angel or the Boss Man against Vader because the size and stature of the Guardian Angel against the Boss Man. You know, they almost stack up equally in size and stature, so I felt like maybe they just booked him in that match to give somebody, you know, a chance against Vader, if you will. Other than that, I mean, the Guardian Angel's run in WCW was, in my honest opinion, trash. 100% trash. Just like the last pay-per-view, the main thing about this, you know, Halloween Havoc 94 was about the main event. It was Flair and Hogan, with Mr. T being the special guest referee in a steel cage. That's exactly what Halloween Havoc 94 was about. Everybody was anticipating that match in the main event. So, all in all, it was a decent Halloween Havoc, but like I said, there was a couple matches on there I could have definitely done without. With that being said, though, Halloween Havoc 1994, as far as a rating is concerned, I'm going to have to give it a 4.5 at best, man, and that's mainly because of the main event between Flair and Hogan is the reason why I'm giving it a 4.5. So, but, this is my review of Halloween Havoc 1994. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.